Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for part 2 of the Q&As, so let's go ahead and get this started. Alright, first question. Hey coach! Thanks as always for the solid info and entertainment. My pressing strength on the overhead press, 1 rep max, 82.5 kg, and bench, 1 RM, 122.5 kg, has always lagged behind my squat, 185 kilograms, deadlift, 232 kg, and weighted chin-ups, body weight 90 kilograms plus 60 kilograms of plates. I bench and press 3 times a week full body, but seriously struggle to bring them up proportionally. I want to hit 140 kilograms on the bench and 100 kg on the press in the future. I train similar to how you train at the moment. What should I do without bulking like crazy? Your lifts are pretty proportionate, man. Your lifts are pretty proportionate. Remember the guy in the last one who was struggling to only have, he was stuck at 150 kilograms on the bench, and he had a 200 kilogram squat, or for 115, so that's 7.5 less than you on the bench, but he out squats you by 15. You're not proportionate now, man. Your pressing is slightly, say this again, your pressing is slightly stronger than your other lifts. You're not proportionate. I mean, you need to keep in mind, man, you start going to powerlifting meets, you're going to find guys who bench 140 kilos who squat 230, 240. It's not as uncommon as you'd think it is. You're not disproportionate at all. Now, it sounds like you want to specialize in pressing. So here's what you do. Reduce your volume slightly on your squatting and other stuff, and do more pressing. Maybe do even more ramping to peak sets on the pressing a little bit, right? That's what you could do. That would probably help. But you're not disproportionate the way that you think you are. I mean, if I were to look at you, if you were a competitive power lifter, I would say that you're stronger on your pressing than you are on your squatting. In terms of proportion, you're stronger. So if you're worried about it, their problem's not there. You need to focus on squatting more. But if you just want to get better at pressing because you want to specialize in it for a while, then by all means, just train pressing more than squatting. Problem solved. All right, next question. If you came in 3 times a week, worked full body, but only did 1 set for each exercise, would you gain significantly more muscle than if you came in once a week, did full body, and only did 1 set? Could one use the exercise in the same routines as if they were doing 5x5, it was just 1 set instead of 5? Yeah, you could do the latter, but I'm going to tell you right now, doing only 1 set is not going to produce anywhere near maximum muscle growth. It's not. I've done this. I've experimented with this. I've watched other people do it over the years. It's not all it's cracked up to be. Best of luck with that. Now, it's a little different if you're talking about building to a peak set. There are forms of 5x5 for non-novice lifters, because novices, this is not going to work. They're not strong enough for a peak set to generate enough. But, I mean, we're talking about stuff like, let's say you're building to a peak set of 315. You might be doing 275 for 5, then you might be doing, 295 for 5, then 315 for 5, right? That's ramping up to a peak set. But those lighter sets still have volume, and they still have enough tension that some of those reps are stimulating adaptation, right? What you're talking about doing, you're going to grow slower. Now, will you grow significantly faster than if you came in and did 1 set versus once a week? Oh, hell yeah. Because if you're only doing 1 set once a week on each of your big exercises, you will most likely start to lose a little bit of muscle over time, right? You will regress on that eventually. For some people, they'll start regressing on that within a week or 2. Some people might not regress for over a month, but you will regress if that's what you do. You're talking about doing 1 all-out set per week on your main lifts. You will not be able to maintain all of your muscle and strength on that. You will regress. You'll regress eventually. It might take a little while. It might hold on for just a little while. But so losing muscle and strength versus gaining muscle and strength, yes, gaining muscle and strength is faster than losing it. So yeah, but honestly, man, what you're talking about doing, it's not going to work well unless you're ramping with the 1 set, even 3 times a week. it could be a little lackluster unless you're just talking about lifts like your deadlift. You're going to gain slower than you could. Let's just be honest here. All right, next question. Thoughts on removing deadlift to focus on squats? I recently did it. My recovery is feeling great. I read that some powerlifters only deadlift every couple of weeks and use a squat to build your deadlift. I was planning on doing this for a year. Is it safe to assume my deadlift will go up as my squat does if I train my grip, of course? If you train your back, your grip, and your hamstrings, yeah, it might go up. I don't recommend you completely remove the deadlift unless you are doing an extreme squat specialization, like Bulgarian type stuff. But I mean, if you're only going to squat 2 or 3 days a week and you remove the deadlift to do that, that's counterproductive, right? If you're going to squat 5 or 6 days a week and you want to specialize in the squat and you need to remove the deadlift for recovery, that's probably fine. But if you're going to squat less than about 5 days a week, do not remove the deadlift. At the very least, have one technique deadlift day every week. But I'm not saying that you can't build your deadlift still doing some of that. But if you've really peaked your deadlift out, you will lose some of your deadlift during that, even if you hypertrophy the muscles, and you'll have to re-ramp it back up. You'll have to re-ramp it back up a bit. So again, you probably, just realistically, you need to at least do some lighter technique deadlift work. If you're going to try to squat specialize for a bit, don't remove it completely. Again, the exceptions can be when you're running like an extreme Bulgarian thing and you're squatting to a max 6 days a week. You might need to pull deadlifts out for a little while. But barring that, you shouldn't need to remove it completely. It's not going to be beneficial in the long term. I've done all this stuff before, by the way. I'm speaking from experience. I'm not saying my deadlift didn't maintain and even go up a hair, but I added a hell of a lot to my squat for my deadlift to go up 10 pounds after I re-peaked it. All right, next question. Is Chad Waterbury a good source to learn from? What do you think in his book and workout routines from Use in a Hurry? Never read it. What do you think of the claim on the cover of the book that says you can gain up to 16 pounds of muscle in 16 weeks? Inside the book, he states some people can even gain more. That's a lot more than 2 pounds of muscle a month limit you said people can gain. I've tried this way, and that's about how much muscle I gained in 4 months. Like he claims, is his way superior to regular 5x5 and your 5x5? You did not gain 16 pounds of muscle in 4 months. All right, I don't want to hear that shit. That's total bullshit. You gain fat, muscle, glycogen, stuff like that. You might have gained 16 pounds of body weight and feel like you didn't gain any fat. You gained fat. All right. That 2 pounds per month I'm talking about, not even everybody can do that. So what Chad Waterbury fails to mention there is how much drugs the people are on. And actually his stuff's pretty good. He's a smart guy. He's a smart guy, and a lot of his training stuff is pretty damn good. But that's total bullshit. What he didn't tell you is that those guys are on a gram a test. Because guys don't gain a full pound of muscle every single week, even in human trials on 600 milligrams of test a week. So what he means is that his guys who are on a gram a test and maybe a little bit DECA, maybe a little EQ thrown in, gained 18 pounds of muscle in 18 weeks or whatever, 16 pounds in 16 weeks. That's what he actually means. He just doesn't have to tell you that part. And they probably did really use those training methods. But we got to be realistic here. All right, next question. Hey, Jason, I dislocated my AC joint 2 years ago due to shoulder impingement on behind the neck press and flaring my elbows on weighted dips. Over 2 years, I have done a lot of overhead press and face pulls, and my shoulders are completely pain-free and mobile. I would like to start doing dips again with my body weight as an accessory for my bench. What is your take on this, Jason? Thank you. All right, you're pain-free now. You've rebuilt all that area up. You've built up all those rotators. You've built up your rear delts. You built all the supporting musculature. I think you could slowly add dips back in, but be careful of your form. Don't start flaring your elbows the way you did before. Pay attention to your technique. Pay attention to whether you're internally rotating the shoulders on these exercises. And again, we know that based upon things like hand spacing, flaring the elbows, everything else. But, again, proceed with caution. Work them back in slowly. Don't let your ego get the best of you, and don't fall back into old forms and things that hurt you. Now, I think most likely that behind the neck press was your issue for you personally. I'd be willing to bet that's what it was. But, you know, better safe than sorry. Dips are great. Just approach it carefully if you've had the injury around it, and make sure you don't replicate the same things that you did that may have contributed to the previous injury. Keep your ego in check and proceed with caution. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time in part 3.